Umbra, I'm going to go in reverse order and go right back to you first. Now, this is, again, I have the story in front of me. It was from WindowsCentral.com, and it was, of course, written by Jez Corden. I said that in the opening. The title of the story goes as such, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive. Xbox's new hardware plans begin with a gaming handheld set for later this year with a full next generation of consoles with an S targeting 2027. Now, obviously, this is an exclusive. It's Jez Corden. It's Windows Central. He obviously has a tremendous amount of connections within Microsoft, and I would imagine this is exactly where he's getting the information. But I kind of want to talk, before we get into the next generation of hardware and the plans that apparently are now pretty much locked for 2027 and not 2026 like we all thought. I want to get into the OEM handheld. And I have a couple of points of contention here that I want to kind of bring up that make a lot of sense. So again, as I read from the story, please be patient, folks. Umbra, I'm going to go right to you. The handheld, or one of the handhelds, is expected to be shown potentially at GDC this year. And it makes sense, because if you line this story up with what happened about 2 weeks ago, where they told us they were going to GDC and that they were going to be talking about and pushing the envelope regarding the ideology of this is an Xbox, it makes perfect sense, right? GDC is going to be a big spot to show off potentially something like a partnered handheld. Well, I'm going to read verbatim from the story, folks. And it says this. First up, Microsoft is working with a PC gaming OEM. Think Asus, Lenovo, MSI, Razer, etc. on an Xbox-branded gaming handheld. Surprisingly slated for later this year in 2025 if plans are met. The code name is Keenan. This gaming handheld will look unmistakably Xbox, we're told, complete with an official Xbox guide button and Xbox design sensibilities. Given that this is a partnered device, similar to Lenovo's Steam OS partnered with Valve, I expect this handheld to be more PC-oriented. Keenan is almost definitely running full Windows, putting the Microsoft Store and PC Game Pass front and center, alongside the ability to install things like Steam. Now, this is what I've been waiting for. Obviously, I'm still going to buy the official Xbox handheld that is expected now in 2027 rather than next year, with, of course, the new mythical box underneath the TV that's going to run Steam potentially, as well as good old games and even your Epic library. Let's get your thoughts on this, because a lot of the gaming community already have handhelds. So some, again, like a community member like John Wolf has like 5. And there are more people. I mean, I have a ROG Ally. I don't get much use out of it because it's very PC-esque, but a branded Xbox team up with potentially Lenovo or even Asus, because they've partnered with them before, I would imagine that this is going to be made for Xbox gamers looking to simply just press a button, start it, press your guide button, go to Xbox, link your account, and go. Rather than, do all the bells and whistles that you have to do with a Lenovo Legion or a Legion Go or whatever. What are your thoughts on again, this is a bit of a shock. I did not expect that this would happen this year, and we could see it. Again, this is hypothetical stuff now, as soon as GDC, which happens in a couple of weeks, Umbra.
Yeah, for me, Boom. Now, you remember, if you guys remember, I said 2027 for the next year.
You did.
And there's a reason for that.
Well, there you go. I like the evil laugh.
Yeah. No, I just use good judgment, I think, but it coincided with some things. So I'll say this: for the handheld, I am excited for because I want to see what they do. But if I had to speak on partnerships and things like that, the best partnership I can think of will probably be ASUS. Shout out to my rock ally brothers in the chat and wherever you are. I see you, Black John. So I would think it would be ASUS. This is the thing about it, though. I'm not sure how they're going to utilize them. Right. I don't know if it's going to be like, oh, we're going to have like some of the new technology, or they'll allow for you to, play next gen or have next gen esque abilities on it. I don't know how that's going to work out. So I don't know if it's just going to be like some type of licensing thing. And you know what I mean? Like, how like Razer Kishi, for instance, had like the Xbox branded Razer Kishis and stuff. So I don't know how that's going to play out. That's the thing for me. I'm excited to see what they do. And if they're going to be speaking on it on at the GDC, then obviously it's going to be tying into what they're moving toward with the future Xbox, the upcoming Xbox, should I say. So I don't know. I don't know how to quantify this just yet. We just don't have enough information. But if I had to guess, it will be some type of partnership where they brand the device itself, because I can't think of any other specific partnerships that work that way for them that I can think of. And again, if they're having a 2027 release for next gen, this certainly wouldn't be, next gen's handheld here. They're not going to.
No, it's basically going to be a partner thing. And this look. I want to read something that really, it's context for what you're saying, and then of course we'll get Jamie's hot take on this. Now, there's a particular part in this story that I want this to be clear. According to Jez Cord, who wrote the story, this device will unmistakably look like an Xbox. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, according to the story, it is going to have at least the official Xbox guide button on your controller. What else makes it look like that? Well, again, this is complete spitballing here, folks. This is just a thought and a theory. There's been some mock-ups of something that, I'm going to make a video out of this, so you'll see what I'm talking about. It basically is a Elite controller split down the middle with a screen in the middle. That's what it looks like. That's the picture that I found. I mean, there's been a ton of mock-ups. That could be what it looks like. Now, again, it says it's unmistakably an Xbox. That's if it looks like that, then you can't mistake this at being an Xbox. It's going to be an Elite controller with a screen in the middle. But this is This is an even more interesting take. Jez Corden in the story says this device, Umbra, will likely serve, at least in part, as a research experience for Microsoft as they build their handheld. That's very interesting. Again, kind of, still dipping the toe in, and without a rush to get it done, which makes obviously a lot of sense that it's not next year, because again, we're only in the first quarter of 2025, and I would imagine they're going to release hardware around the holidays, so they do have some time. But the fact that they have not settled in on an official, prototype or device that they're happy with, this again could set up as a test bed for what their handheld would look like and how it would actually function. Thoughts, Umbra?
Yeah, for me, Boom, again, it goes back to as far as the handheld you're speaking, right? That's the thing. I don't quite know how it's going to function, man. I really don't. I don't get how they're going to utilize this thing. Because in my mind, again, I don't think it's a next gen compatible device. I think it's going to be for current gen. And again, I think that's because the next gen Microsoft, well, to be fair, it could be both. Because
if it's PC based, it's just a matter of
exactly.
parts.
So it could be both. It won't necessarily mean it won't be able to do whatever they need to going forward, right? Because like you said, it's PC based, and what their Microsoft is planning on doing next gen is going to be PC-esque, right? For the
Yep.
Xbox. So
hmm
I guess to be fair, we have to see that. I am interested though if they can say, "Hey, we're going to use this as a test bed to allow for that future that's coming, and show you how, yes, this too is an Xbox essentially, right? And allow for that for us to pull essentially our Xbox there through the cloud and play everything, even our own games." Now that's when it will actually matter. If I can go and get on there and log into essentially to Xbox on the handheld
Right.
and pull in games that are not on Game Pass and in the cloud and such and just play them, essentially that does become an Xbox, right? And that's what the plan was anyway with the whole this is an Xbox thing, is to be able to play all your games everywhere. And so this whole Project Latitude that they were doing here, as long as that plays all off and you can access your games rather on this device, essentially making it an Xbox, if you will, then yeah, I think that's a W. That's the only thing I can think that they might be doing outside of showing some whatever partnership, which I would guess will be branding, where they use the Xbox logo on something or something like that. Again, going back to the Razer key sheet for my basis of thought, because I think essentially Microsoft is not going to put any money on R&D for handheld themselves if they're going to use them. I would say this gives me pause on Microsoft actually having a handheld for their console, if you will, versus allowing third-party developers to have it. That is worrisome to me a little bit, because now it makes me think, is Microsoft going to have their own?
Well, their handheld has basically been confirmed that all the way up to the top. So they are making a handheld now. Thanaros in the chat asked, "Why would Xbox make their own handheld if they have partners to do so?" Well, that's a great question. I think it comes down to money. You got to remember, if you buy something on this handheld, it's a partnered handheld. They have to share the profits. Now, does that go into games that are being downloaded on that device? I honestly don't know the business aspect of it, but they are doing two pieces of hardware for 2027. One is their own handheld. Now, could that change if these take off? I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I think Xbox is still going to want their own hardware. Now, here's the thing. Is this next generation handheld that we're talking about coming in 2027, is it going to be Switch-esque, meaning it's going to dock to your TV? Well, that's I don't know. Could that be the design feature of it, actually playing like an Xbox in your hand and docking it to your TV? And it's essentially an S version of the next gen Xbox versus the X version is in this mythical PC box, Umbra. I honestly don't know, but they do, and they have said that there have two pieces of hardware coming next generation. And again, I do have a quote for regarding where this thing. It went all the way up to Satya Nadella, and it has been approved. They have the money, and they are currently developing it.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I just look at them doing a whole outreach to third-party devices as a little off-putting, because it makes me think, then are they really going to go through with it, or just use them to do that and not waste their money on R&D or whatever, right? But hopefully that is the case. You never know. But I would say too, I guess this also could play into their hands as far as their plans go to introduce all these different OEMs where you can play your Xbox on whatever. Because remember, when we talked about this before, one of the things I mentioned was the Xbox essentially is going to allow third-party developers, PC makers, etc., to have their own branded version of it that allows for whatever version PC, because we're talking about PC at this point, so that can allow for different builds and stuff like that, right? And this is
your imagination, as long as your bank account is going to be as far as
pretty much
it takes you. So if you want a $2,000 Xbox, a Lenovo or an Alienware might be able to provide that to you, it's going to be ultimately an Xbox, except it's going to be it potentially could have a 5090 in it. because you
That's right.
paid to have that box made.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I mean, and going to that point, I can get my 5090 enabled Xbox, if you will, and
Yep.
burn a hole in fabric in time with the power that it's going to take to power it up, and then actually land into Xbox, so the universe somewhere. But no, yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the future they're going for. So in that logic, looking at it that way, I can see the handheld making sense because they're just saying, hey, we're going to give you all these other people options to be able to play essentially all your Xbox games anywhere, including these devices too. So I guess that plays into it in that way.
Nah, I mean, great points all around. Jamie and Moran, let's bring you in and talk about the Xbox handheld before we get to next gen, and I will catch up on super chats on the back end of this topic. Look, handheld gaming is a big thing. It's a lot of money. It's, it started with the Nintendo Switch. You know what? Hold on a sec. Let's go all the way back. It started with the Game Boy 150 years ago, which of course it has evolved to the Switch, which of course the Switch 2 is releasing this year at some point. But hardcore gaming, you're gaming on the go. These PCs in your hand, they're expensive. $500, $600, $700, $800, right? Obviously, one of the first ones in the market was the Steam handheld. And of course, it's had a couple of iterations. And now we see that everybody's in it. Even Sony is supposedly developing their next handheld. That's not what they currently have, which is basically a streaming device. And it's fine for what it does, but people want to be able to download their games and be really on the go. Well, you're going to be able to do that with this next handheld. I want to get your thoughts on what Infinite Umber had to say regarding it. Do you have any concerns that they wouldn't have their own if the partnered ones take off? Because I think there's room for the partner hardware as well as them actually making the money one-to-one on their own piece of hardware. What are your thoughts, Jamie?
Right, so bear in mind what I'm about to say. You're probably going to hear a bunch of different people mention this all of a sudden. So I don't actually think this has anything to do with Xbox as a console. So basically, Steam OS is taken off. There's going to be more Steam boxes out this year and next year. And, Steam is allowing Valve is allowing Steam OS on third-party devices. And, PC handhelds, they're popping off. And, one of the reasons why Microsoft got into the console business is because back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, there was a worry at Microsoft that Sony was going to take over the living room, right? Because it had a DVD player and all that stuff, maybe internet connectivity. So they came out with the Xbox. This is how I see Microsoft tackling Steam OS. I don't think it has anything to do with Xbox as a console. I think this is Microsoft trying to get Xbox branded in such a way where it could be recognized as a PC device as well. Because Steam OS is going out there. If you're a gamer and you gravitate towards PC, maybe you like emulation, mods, all that stuff. Well, what's to stop you from just getting a device such as a Steam OS device, Steam Box, Steam Deck, whatever, and just play games on that? Microsoft doesn't want that. They want you to have a Windows device. So I think this has nothing to do with Xbox at all, other than the fact that they want Xbox to be branded as a PC gaming device as well. Now, do I think Xbox next-gen consoles are coming? Obviously. But do I think there's an Xbox handheld that will play Xbox native games coming? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's, the 2027 thing. I think this year is Microsoft. So in the UK, YouTube specifically, PC Game Pass is advertised all the time. Not Game Pass Ultimate, not regular Game Pass, PC Game Pass specifically. I think Microsoft this year, because they have no new Xbox coming out, they want Xbox because Xbox is the gaming brand, right? So I think Microsoft is trying to pivot 2025 as them getting out there and saying, hey, look, you have Xbox consoles here. You have Xbox streaming on your Samsung TV, but Xbox is also a PC. And I think they want to take this year and use the OEM strategy to get their handhelds out there, because this handheld this year isn't going to be playing Xbox games natively. So like this is just my theory, of course. I think this is their foray into pushing Xbox as a PC device as well. So that's my thought. But I 100% think, you know, the console and the official Xbox handheld will happen. I mean, hell, they have a Series S that can play thousands of games. They essentially have that device ready to go with games optimized for it. So, like, that's my thought on it. And when it comes to the whole OEM strategy, I 1,000,000,000% think that they won't do that for the proper console. That there's too many, like, people jump into consoles for a more simple way to play games. I think doing the OEM thing, you can look back at, you know, the 3DO back in the day, the Steam box back when they tried it 15 years ago, failure after failure. I think the OEM thing is specifically for, you know, Xbox branded PC handhelds. We'll get our consoles in 2027, which we'll talk about in a bit, but for now, I think 2025 is the pivoting to trying to get Xbox branded as a PC device as well.